Alright, so here are my helpful hints and tricks for this particular etude. First of all, notice the tempo marking. It says moderato assai. That translates as quite moderate or very moderate. So what does that mean? Well, that's sort of up to you. I actually tried to play it at a very moderate tempo. And it just bored me. So I made an artistic decision to change the tempo marking to allegro assai, quite fast. I just preferred it that way. You have that right as an artist and as a musician to play it at the tempo that sounds most musically correct to you. The other thing I did on this one was I tried to adhere to the dynamic markings pretty strictly because I'm trying to demonstrate obedience to the page and paying attention to what's on the page. And actually, I really quite like the dynamics in this particular etude, so I chose to follow them. But again, I think artistic license does play a part here, and you could choose to do some different dynamics here if you so choose. All right, well, let's get to some of the fingering things now. All right, let's start with measure 2. There is a temptation when you see A sharp to B natural to play A sharp normal and use the fork fingering for B natural, but you immediately have to go to low E after that. It's so awkward getting from the fork fingering, sliding that finger off the fork fingering onto a tone hole, covering another tone hole, and getting your pinky onto that key all at the same time. It's just not worth it. It's too awkward. So you'll need to flip-flop here. Yes, there's a risk of a blip, but it's worth it to not have to do that awkward slide. Now if we go to measure 4, we see that we have a D sharp in there. Lots of students learn the D sharp fingering using the side key right here. Totally fine, it's perfectly acceptable. But when I see anything that moves chromatically, I use the banana key right here. Instead of the side key, use the banana key right here. Because then it keeps all the motion in one hand. If I play that whole measure using the side key, I'm having to involve the right hand, which is unnecessary. You can use the banana key and keep it all in the left hand. That's more solid than using the side key. Can you do it with the side key? Absolutely. Should you do it with the side key? Maybe. But I just find it so much easier to use that banana key. Keep all the action, all the motion in one hand, and you're more likely to be cleaner. Now in measure 5, we have a couple options here. I would probably recommend that you use the fork fingering for the first B, and then normal fingering for the second and third Bs, like so. Again, we're just trying to avoid sliding off of the fork fingering to another fingering that might be slightly awkward. Could you get away with using the fork fingering for the second B? You could, because it's an 8th note, and you could cut it short, which would give you a brief moment of silence where you could move from the fork fingering to the G sharp without a blip, like so. Alright, measure 10 has a grace note. I've probably mentioned this in earlier tutorials, but I'll just tell you it again. whenever I see a grace note that has to happen before the note, like this one does, I don't want to just squish it in, which is the way I was taught as a young student. I was taught to just squish it in. But that leads to panic. It leads to potential mistakes, potential blips. And so I like to have a little bit more control over my grace notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the end of beat 1, that last 16th note in beat 1, that's a 16th note E. I'm going to cut it in half in terms of time value, so that 16th note E now becomes a 32nd note, and then the grace note becomes another 32nd note. If I play it really slow, it will sound super square like this. One more time. 8th, 16th, 32nd, 32nd. The nice thing about that is it sounds square slow, definitely sounds square and sort of boring slow, but up to speed it just sounds like a graceful grace note. Measure 11, we can use side F sharp. So if you've never learned side F sharp, it is normal F, thumb hole, and then you just add these two side keys right here, and then it becomes F sharp. Like so. And that prevents us from doing the awkward flip-flop. Flip-flop often causes blips. Using side F sharp prevents those blips. Aside from that, the only other issues that we have on the last two lines of this would be a few more F sharps where you have to make a decision. Should I use the fork fingering? Should I use the normal fingering? And I would base that all on how smoothly you can get to the next note after it. And then also in the second to last measure, you have another D sharp that is moving in a chromatic order, E to D sharp back to E. So I would use the banana key for that one again because it keeps all the motion in one hand.